is a speaker and an educator, and she is a fractional CRO, which is a chief revenue officer. And she works with small and medium-sized businesses and really focuses on the sales and revenue concerns. So she helps companies design and manage high-performance sales teams and optimizes the processes and the performance metrics and really gets companies onto a good path forward. And she's taking the concepts that she focuses on in sales and applying them to job search, because really, when you think about it, they're so similar. And so, Susie, I'm going to hand it over to you. And I'm very, very excited that you're going to be sharing your tips and words of wisdom for to
Oh,
the group. Thank you.
the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. And like you said, wait, are you able to see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Like you said, what I'm going to share today, I actually take sales organizations, salespeople specifically through this in a workshop format. So everything that I'm going to share with you today, I'm hoping you'll have a copy of the presentation and you'll take it and apply to your job search. A lot of the slides are actually kind of worksheets that I put into a PowerPoint format, but hopefully you'll be able to utilize those. So if you've attended the recent Friday coffees, you may have heard Dr. Chaz Austin speak on personal branding, Rochelle Hanna on the role of LinkedIn, and in fact, she's on the call today. The role of LinkedIn in your job search. And then Peter Asatera, who spoke about Ikigai and the importance of having a positive mental mindset. So today, I'll touch on each of these topics and pull it all together, providing you with the tools to create your own personal brand and develop that networking strategy that you need to help in your job search. So this won't just speak to the strategy and concepts that we've had in previous calls. It's actually going to provide you more of boots on the ground with the tools and the processes to assist in that job search. And it's not just really to help those that are in transition. As I've already said, I utilize this with sales teams and then in my own business as a solopreneur. So a strategic approach to having like executing your job search is absolutely so critical because it helps you to develop the trust and the professional image that you are trying to portray to your network and people that you are have yet to meet. So it's important to have a strategy on how to grow your network and your personal brand. A strategic approach to a strategic approach to your personal brand and formal networking strategy doesn't just open doors, but it also builds, that credibility and the visibility to help other people bring you into companies and well position you for landing that job. So the topics that we'll go through today are how to create that personal brand and then convey that in a 30-second elevator pitch that you will utilize to target your ideal companies that you want to work for and the networking partners. We'll then talk about how to develop that networking strategy and putting your personal brand into action. And that's more your 30-second elevator pitch. And then last but not least is maintaining a positive mindset. 8 years ago, I actually made the brave decision to leave corporate America after I was let go. The entire department that I was leading was actually let go due to a strategic shift in the direction of the company. And so I've been in your seat if you are currently in a job search or considering leaving potentially a bad or a toxic culture. So I know how emotional you can actually get and feel, I really struggle with imposter syndrome. And so the principles that I'm going to walk you through today were very helpful to help me stay, positively grounded. So let's dive in. One of my favorite quotes is connection is currency. Connections are the currency of your network, and creating those meaningful connections with the people who are like-minded professionals and share that common interest in developing the valuable relationships. So when developing these relationships, it's important that you convey your personal brand effectively and you get really clear on what that sounds like and what that looks like. So what is a personal brand? Your personal brand is the unique story that you communicate to the world. It reflects your purpose, and that's what really gets you out of bed and gets you excited every Monday morning. It conveys your core values, your strengths, and the skills that you have. And a lot of people think that strengths and skills are one and the same. But when you look at this pyramid, which actually is a worksheet, and there's examples filled in here. These aren't me, but these are just examples. So if you choose to utilize this to go through and build your brand, your personal brand framework, these are some of the examples. And it's really important to be able to articulate both your strengths and the key skills that you have that differentiate you. So in defining your personal brand did someone say something? Okay, so in defining your personal brand and your elevator pitch, these are the 4 key areas that you want to consider as you're going through this exercise in defining your personal brand. What are the solutions that you offer companies? What are the pain points and the problems that the companies have that you solve? And what differentiates you and makes you unique? You know, there's a lot of people that might be out of a job or that you're competing with for that ideal job that you're looking for. It's so important that you get clear on what differentiates you and makes you unique and the best person for that role. So you pull all of this together into a 30-second commercial, also known as your elevator pitch. And this is what you're going to utilize as you're developing your network and you're building those relationships with people that you're meeting with, who, as you articulate what it is you're looking for, the ideal job, you'll be able to be very clear and concise in that messaging. So it will define who you are, what you do, what are the target companies and or industries? I call it your ideal company profile. In sales, when I'm taking salespeople through this, it's your ideal customer profile. What are the typical company pain points and problems? And then what are the problems that you solve? So I'm going to provide you with my example. This actually is my elevator pitch. Hi, I'm Susie Cashion with GrowthWise Consulting. I'm a fractional vice president of sales who works with CEOs to realize the true value of their business through revenue optimization. To achieve this, I enhance the sales strategy, the sales process, and provide team management to create a culture of accountability. The outcome is an average of a 32% revenue growth year over year in year 1. The business owners I help are frustrated with flat and declining revenue. They're upset about employee turnover, and they're nervous about their financial future and their ability to grow sales. Do you know any businesses dealing with these challenges? So I utilize that 30-second elevator pitch with people as I am networking, and they then say, yeah, you know, actually this company comes to mind. Let me make that introduction. The next step is getting really clear on the company and the industries that you want to attract in your job search. So this worksheet is actually filled out and it reflects my ideal company profile. So to provide an example, I've completed this worksheet from my perspective. The top section helps you identify the types of companies you can best serve. So what industry are you interested in? What's the annual size and revenue of the company, the size of the company, how many employees, what growth stage are they at? Some of you might be experts in startups. Some of you might have skill sets that really could benefit a turnaround, growth-minded companies, and then at companies that are looking looking to exit in 1 to 3 years. So get very clear on the type of company and the industry that you're looking for a role. The second area is the company goals. So in my case, I want to grow the company. I want to help to increase revenue, improve customer concentration, grow market share, and release new products and services and help the company to do that effectively. So what are the goals of the companies of the companies that are in your job search pool? And then what are the challenges? The challenges that you help solve, the problems of those companies. So I attract companies that have revenue in decline. They have competition issues. They have a lot of employee turnover. They might be slow to drive change because they don't know how to drive change. And they lack the appropriate sales systems and processes needed to create a world-class sales organization. So the top row is very focused on the company. And then the bottom row is more about you. What's your compelling story? What are the pain points that you solve? As I had mentioned before, I help companies to retain talent. I also help CEOs that don't have time to execute a sales infrastructure or a sales strategy, or they don't have a formal sales process. They don't have any new customer outreach whatsoever because no strategy exists. So get very clear on the pain points that you solve when you're going through this exercise. The next is the compelling story, the solutions that the company needs. So in my case, they need a defined sales process, a sales strategy. They need to optimize their CRM. Some clients I work with don't even have a CRM, so I get them set up on that. Do they have KPI, key performance indicator dashboards that help them to monitor the metrics and what the sales team is doing and how likely they are to hit quotas? I revise compensation plans. A lot of compensation plans are very high bases and very little variable pay. And so the right recipe in a sales organization is usually a 60% base and 40% variable pay. So it keeps the salespeople motivated. And these are the types of solutions that I provide companies. And the last and probably most important thing is your differentiator and how you can help these companies solve their problems. So get really clear on how you're different in a competitive landscape. Then the next step is getting clear on your ideal referral partners. So once you know you've got your 30-second elevator pitch, who you are and what you do, problems that you solve, you've defined the companies that you want to work for, the problems that you solve, and how you differentiate yourself. You're then going to convey that to your network, that it's going to help you to hopefully land your next position. So what are those network referrals? Who are those people? Where can you find the right people to introduce you to potential job opportunities? They're in your personal network, your professional network. You can go to networking events and trade shows, direct outreach, in email, as well as LinkedIn. What is your ideal referral profile? Again, this is focused more on the companies. So if I wanted to work in the CPG, consumer packaged goods industry, for example, I would look at my LinkedIn to find people that work in that industry who I'm either first or second level connections with. What's the annual revenue of the company and the size of the company? And again, the growth stage. So you've already defined a lot of this in doing the previous worksheets, but when you pull it together, it helps you to attract the right networking, the people that you want to network that have connections in these companies. And then what are the company challenges? And then your compelling story. This is exactly like the last slide that focused on the company. This focuses on your ability to articulate the solutions and the problems that you solve. Between 70 and 85% of job seekers land jobs through networking, according to the US Bureau of Labor. And only 2 to say 5% of the applications that are submitted online result in an interview. So a very, very low percentage. So it's very important that you develop a networking strategy with people that will help to introduce you to these companies. So the first would be identifying your warm connections. These are people that live in your neighborhood, your personal and your professional connections. And LinkedIn helps significantly in that regard. You can also, if you have like an Apple phone, I actually downloaded all of my contacts. I put it into a CSV file, converted it to Excel, and I actually filtered everybody in my phone that probably 25 years of my career of people that I've worked with, and it really helped me to understand who I could outreach to. So I encourage you to do that too. We've got our phones, and that is a great tool in addition to LinkedIn. And then you reach out and you reconnect and be very specific about the types of roles in the companies that you're interested in. Leveraging LinkedIn connections. Even if it's a second connection, you can find out who that first connection is and ask them to introduce you to the second connection that might be working at a company that is in your ideal company profile. And then attend networking events and get out there. No, I don't know anybody that's been successful at finding a job behind their computer. You need to get out, network, have coffees, be seen, meet people. It's all about the relationships. And then follow up with people. Send them an email, ping them on a text, or send them a LinkedIn message. Because if you touch base with them and you tell them, hey, I'm looking for a job, and then you never touch base with them again, they'll feel like it was all about you and not really about the relationship. So I can't reinforce enough the importance of staying in touch and keeping people in your network top of mind. So 75% of job seekers who maintain a positive mindset in their job search report landing a lot faster. And 76% of employers state that candidates' confidence is conveyed in their during their interview process when these candidates have a much more positive mindset. And as we all know, the law of attraction states that people with positive attitudes are much more approachable and likable, and that will open doors for you as you network and open doors for new job opportunities. So I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable now, and I'm going to share with you something that I do every day. This is a potential formula that you can use to create and help you maintain a positive mental mindset. So every day, whether it be in the morning or throughout the day, I always exercise. What is exercise? It means doing something to fill your brain and your mind with positive things. I read inspirational books, 10 pages a day. I listen to educational podcasts. Do something to expand your mind and gain new perspectives. Then I exercise. I get my body moving through activities like walking. I go to the gym, whatever it works for you, taking your dog for a walk. It's so important. Movement and getting your blood flowing really helps to increase endorphins and helps with that positive mindset. And then I pray. I take time to reflect. I lay in bed in the morning and I set an intention for the day. And I say, a successful day looks like this. And whoever you pray to, it doesn't matter, but you put it out there in the universe and you ask for help and you ask for support. And it's amazing the things. I asked for something this morning, went into my email, and I was like, hot damn, yay, this came through. I was so excited when I got this email, and I was like, yay. So anyways, praying really helps. Write in a gratitude journal. And I'm not as good at writing in a gratitude journal, but during my prayer session, I always say, 3 things that I'm grateful for. And sometimes when I'm really sad or really bummed out or feel defeated, it's really hard and I dig deep. And sometimes it's like, I am so grateful that my cat is still alive. I am so grateful that I live in Orange County, California, which is such a beautiful place. Find things to be grateful for. Have a attitude of gratitude. And then meditate. Sometimes during the day when you just are going, 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 it's great to pause, to breathe, and take 3 minutes to just meditate on what the rest of the day is going to look like. You can even go through a meditation practice on podcast if you have the time. But it's so important to meditate as well. It just helps you to stay grounded. And then another thing that I do, these are this is the final of the 6 things, is I do something every day to serve others. So that might look like volunteering. It might be taking a phone call to somebody that is in job transition and they want me to role play their interview with them. It's doing something to give back to people, because when you're serving others, it makes you feel so much better and helps with this positive mindset. So hopefully you find some of those things helpful. And this slide I actually just added this morning. It was so weird that I got this, but I'm on this daily affirmation that I receive in email. And the message today is to get clear on what you want. If you're looking to manifest something specific, be very clear on the details. And most importantly, imagine as vividly as possible how it will feel once you're living your dream. After experiencing how it feels, feel the gratitude of being there and then release it to the universe. When you're fixated on what you think is best, you could be blocking something even greater. What you think you want is often in the way of what's the highest good for you. And I think this is super relevant because when I 8 years ago was looking to get back into corporate America, I had this opportunity to be an interim CRO for a company, and it just landed in my lap. And I was like, no, I'm looking for a job. I'm not open to this opportunity. And we kept conversations going, and I thought, you know what? Maybe this is the opportunity, and this is where the universe wants me to be. So I just want to leave you with feeling energized by what the universe brings you, and keep an open mind. And last, your smile is your logo, your personality is your business card, and how you leave others feeling after an experience becomes your trademark. And with that, I would like to open it up for questions, comments. You will receive the presentation, so if you want to go through those worksheet exercises, you're more than welcome to. And I am also open to having conversations with you if anybody wants to reach out one-on-one.
Thank you, Susie. And why don't we just open it up and have an interactive conversation? Any questions from anybody? You have such great insights.
Yeah.
Russ.
Hi, how are you? How's everyone? Happy Thanksgiving belated. Hope you had a great one. Thank you. I like the last part, the smile. Although then again, I'm said some of my jokes and humor just don't always land the way they're intended. So, or they're not always understood. Actually, I'm told said most people do not understand me, which I totally agree. So, any thoughts on that one?
Thoughts on the fact that people don't understand you?
Yeah, like sometimes I think of humor that maybe isn't always connected, and I'm explaining the connections. So sometimes they're a little complex. Well, again, we're not going to please everybody anyway.
Absolutely. You are who you are. And, if you have a personal brand, and the most important thing is understanding and getting clear who you are. And maybe you just are transparent in those conversations. If somebody's kind of giving you that, deer in headlights look, you just say, hey, here's a little bit more about me and my personality. And, you know, my sense of humor, right? Everybody has different sense of humor. Also, if you think about it, a lot of times, you know, I'm not really quick-witted. And when people that I communicate with are, and they'll say something and I might be that deer in headlights, but I ask, I say, like, can you explain that? So
Exactly.
if they're looking at you, kind of giving you a blank stare, you can just say, that didn't land, did it? Let
Right.
me let me explain. Because you want to leave every interaction, again, you want to leave on a positive note and them not thinking, well, that was odd, right?
Yeah, right.
It's
Especially
better
since
to take it back and
yeah.
just convey, you know, here's what I meant.
Right, especially when I'm dealing with those who are non-English speakers. I used to work overseas teaching English, and I was just thinking back to a particular example that might take a while, little bit to explain. But I had a cold sore. I was teaching some students in Korea. I said, "What's this cold sore?" And I wrote on the humorously on the board, "bar fight," and they go, "Oh." In came the director. The director looks at them, looks at the board, looks back at, he's joking, walks out the room.
See, I would think that was funny, but you have that international and the cultural differences too. So I think knowing your audience is also important. If you do a lot of international speaking and training, it's really important that you know your audience, right? And you maybe even open up with, hey, you know, I'm from America and like I have this quick wit and I might say something that you don't understand or you might find offensive. Please let me know.
There we go.
Good
Yeah.
thoughts. Alan, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Susie, great presentation. I can see why that people often turn to you for guidance and coaching. Couple of thoughts. One, if you could put your LinkedIn information in the chat so we can connect with you, that would be great. Secondly, those of us who've got larger LinkedIn networks, you talked about being a giver, and that's the whole PRG philosophy of helping others. I'm curious to know, with someone who's got a larger network, what are some strategies or techniques that you're using to engage people by giving value back to them? Are you sending them articles? Are you just reaching out casually and just asking how they're doing? You know, what in today's world, we've got a lot going on. So I'm just curious how you're maintaining those relationships, because if you've got a larger network, it's a challenge.
Yes. So I serve my network, one being CEOs in the companies that I work for and that hire me, as well as my referral network, in similar but different ways. For CEOs, I send business articles. So you're spot on. Something of interest to keep me top of mind, but something that I think that might be relevant to them. I also have a CRM and I send out newsletters every month to stay top of mind. And I think, like a CEO, like what content would be valuable that they would be willing to read. And I keep it short. I don't keep it, you know, a lot of people send out these newsletters. None of us have time to read those long newsletters. And actually, when I open something, I receive other people's newsletters and they're really long. I just send it to the trash, unfortunately. But it's got to have a great subject line and it's got to be short and to the point. So that's how I serve the CEO and the companies that I serve. And then my network, I do much the same way. I offer them, I have a complimentary sales agility assessment. And so if they're working with companies that have revenue issues, I offer them that link to then send to their client. And, you know, so it's a tool that keeps them top of mind with their companies, with the companies that they're serving. And then I also go into LinkedIn every day and I comment, because when you're commenting, it goes to other people's second and, you know, third levels. It just, your LinkedIn universe grows. So I'm constantly commenting. Liking does nothing. Commenting shows that you're a thought leader and it gets your voice out there, surround sound. So I do that for my referral partners. And then I also have a lead gen company that I have hired to do outreach to companies directly. So that's through email. And I don't necessarily recommend that for a job search, unless, depending on, who you're working with. I would think you're going through a recruiter at this level in your career. So your recruiter does a lot of that work for you, that outreach, and introduces you, as well as people in your network. But I tend to go straight to the CEOs and share them with them in an email sequence on how I can help their business.
Great. Thank you for the information. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Questions, thoughts? Now's your
Hi.
opportunity. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I just got kicked off, so I'm back on, and it may be that the question was just answered. I was just catching the end of it, but I was curious about the role of recruiters in the process and how that should be part of the strategy.
It should absolutely be part of your strategy, especially at the higher levels, because they're usually retained or brought in to help with a search. But it should never negate the personal professional relationships in your networking strategy. So it's a two-pronged approach. If you're working with recruiters, that's great, but it's not exclusive to building your own network, because it could be surround sound. And then you could actually go back to your recruiter and say, here's a company I heard has an opportunity. Do you have any relationships there that you could make that introduction?
So build relationships with the recruiters, just as you're building the relationships with the company executives.
Yes.
Yeah, especially in your industry that you're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been our counsel, the universe needs to know you're looking, right? Don't
Yeah.
assume people know you're looking. Make sure everybody knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Who else out there?
Talk a little bit about the use of video in the job search and how you would incorporate that in the strategy.
I think video is awesome because it articulates your thought leadership, and people love to consume, and open videos more than they like to read. So you can utilize that in LinkedIn messaging, on your LinkedIn, putting posts out there to elevate, a concept or a particular topic that you are a thought leader on. And you can use platforms like Loom and, Vidyard, very easy to record these 15-second sound bites, 30-second sound bites. And you can send it out on email as well.
Great, thank you.
Mhm. Actually, I'm going to share something with you. I get way more likes on content that I put on LinkedIn that is either a voiceover from a podcast, clips from a podcast, as well as videos, snippets. I get way more likes on those because I think we have, as humans, we're kind of like voyeurs, right? We, in a weird way, right? We'll click on a video faster to listen than we, to look, see, something, content, than we will actually read it, like a long article. So if you're able to articulate a message in a 15-30-second soundbite, that's a lot better. And you can bring personality into it too.
Exactly. You showcase your executive presence that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I see two hands up. One of you want to go? Russell?
I'll go ahead and let him start off.
Okay, thank you. So I was curious to hear your thoughts on open to work banner on LinkedIn. And also I've seen some folks put in message to the whole LinkedIn network saying, I'm looking, any referrals, that kind of thing. Would you recommend such blanket approach?
If it was 20 years ago, I would say no, but it is so socially accepted now, and it's so common for people to be, looking for jobs or in transition. Absolutely. It doesn't, there's no derogatory perception whatsoever having that open to work. on your LinkedIn. In fact, I think it's a lot better, and people get really vulnerable. And recently I've seen people in my network say, just want to let you know, after 20 years with this company, I got laid off. I never saw this coming. And they're super vulnerable. And they're like, I am asking my network for help. Here's what I'm looking for. So making posts like that as well, I think it's great.
Thank you.
Russell?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Now in this current generation, it's very employers have become very scarce in regards to kind of hiring, in regards to kind of in the tech world. I guess what kind of advice would you say? Obviously, I'm pretty early into my career. I'm just trying to stand out, obviously, more than others. I have the work experience. I'm getting the education. And obviously, I've kind of worked on those elevator pitches and such, but I find it a little bit more difficult to kind of being able to get someone's attention. I guess any advice on that?
Yeah, I would say just get very clear on the companies that you want to work for. And in the tech, there are so many startups. So maybe you pivot the type of companies that you want to work for, and you're open to smaller businesses or startups, which comes with a little bit more risk, but can be a lot of fun, versus like mid or large cap established, tech companies. So I would say just be open and maybe think broader in your reach if you've defined that tech is where you want to be, and you will end up landing the right opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Anybody else? She's got a wealth of information.
Quiet group.
Lots of success. Maybe elaborate, and maybe
Oh, there's
doesn't.
somebody raised their hand.
Oh, good. There we go. Gaurav.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing everything. My question is, following up on the last question, like sometimes I feel like, in this job market, if I expand my horizons, that will be a good thing to do, so initially, for example, I'm in my job search and I thought, oh, I want to go into FANG companies. But then, talking to and networking to people, I get conflicting information because there are some people who have one perspective of working in large companies, which is they become people become very specialized in those. And then there are things like, if we are targeting only large companies like the FANG companies, they have a very set way of interviewing. And in that case, like what I've heard is if you fail an interview, you are blacklisted from that company for 6 months or a year. And so that kind of creates uncertainty in my mind that, I already don't have a job. And then if my strategy is to go for large companies and then I get blacklisted, I'm in a perpetual loop, right? Um, and then if I think about, going towards smaller companies, then it's a different strategy altogether. And so how do I balance that, right? Because those are like the smaller startups, for example, they hire in a different way and they have a different way of preparation. And so how do we all, like balance that between startups, or mid-sized companies and large companies, like, yeah. Any advice on that, Susie?
When you say balance, can can you unpack that for me?
Yeah, sure. So balance means in terms of networking, in terms of, like I reached out to my network, for example, and he is like, okay, I'm really, you have been a great colleague. You were so flexible, and I would love to help in any way. And what are you looking for? And so now to him, if I'm saying, I'm looking to get into a FANG company, into a leadership role, um, then it becomes too specific, and I don't know if I'm missing opportunities if I position myself in that way.
I think that first and foremost, your goal is to get a job, right? And get back in the workforce. And so I think it's important, if you traditionally have been in mid to large cap companies, there is so much experience that you have that you could utilize in smaller or startups, right? And you could land that leadership position in the smaller companies just based on your experience and expertise in tech. So I think staying open-minded is really important. Your strategy and you, how you differentiate yourself, your skill sets and the problems that you solve, whether it's a large company or a small company, that's the same. But get very clear on how you're different, right? Because there might be a lot of people in your space, in your particular job title, that are out of work right now. And you just have to stay open-minded to where the opportunities are. And, you know, I hate to say this, but I would say the average tenure right now, you know, used to be the 40-40 plan. You work 40 hours a week for 40 years and stay with the same company and you get, you know, your gold watch on the way out. And that is not the way it is, right? So if your goal is to get back and be employed, be open to what the universe provides, right? And say, here's how I can help a smaller company. And, you know, just be very clear on that and stay with a company for 2 years, a year and a half. You know, you're obviously looking for tenure, but if you can go and there's solutions that you provide to a company for 18 months, that's okay. And it is acceptable in today's job force. No one stays 40 years. So I would say if your goal is to land, you know, so that you can get back in the workforce, then land and be open to different opportunities that are kind of pivoting from where your current, you know, what your ideal company is.
I see. And in that case, should I be positioning myself, like there is sometimes, we tie ourselves to a particular job title. For example, I have been into product management, but that brings multiple skill sets which can be applied into, say, sales, into business development. So how do, if I'm positioning myself, how do I say I'm not tied to a particular product role,
Okay.
but rather I
Yeah.
can use leverage my skills into building customer relationships, into building partnerships. So how do I position myself and not lock myself into something?
Job title.
Correct.
Yeah. So you go back to what are the problems that I solve? What are my skills, right? And what are my strengths? So focus on that pyramid. And those are relevant skills and solutions to, you know, problems that companies have that you can solve. Focus on that, not the title, because every company has a different title.
I see. Okay.
Duncan, your hand's been up for a while.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're on mute, Duncan.
Yeah, thanks so much for an excellent presentation. And I just picked up on the point you made, which was you need to make sure your network is aware of your availability to work, which brings up again the dreaded open to work question. For people who are in transition, and particularly if you're in senior roles or you're looking for a more senior role, what do you recommend in terms of the use of that, brand, if you like?
The executive seats, it's your personal network, personal professional network, right? And recruiters in those, in that, the C-suite type roles. I think you're going to have a lot more traction with recruiters because they're the ones that are placing the CEOs. And the boards of directors aren't necessarily looking on LinkedIn for people that say open to work.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion and my experience. So you're going to be leveraging your recruiter network a lot more. So get to know the recruiters in specific industries that you're interested in working in, and then look at your network. Those second and third connections are going to be so important to expand your exposure to other companies. And then I think the executive level search is more on the relationships that you're building with other senior leaders, as well as the recruiters that are doing this, conducting the searches for those companies.
I just saw an excellent message from Bill Laser, which answers a question. But I guess from my point of view, that's kind of the position I've taken, which is I like to demonstrate that I'm continuing to work, doing consulting and advising. I don't want to create an impression that somehow I kind of feel like it's maybe a sense of weakness and doesn't portray the confidence that you were talking about earlier. But I don't want to pretend that I'm not comfortable being vulnerable. I'm totally fine to put that out there. It's more of a strategy. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, understandable. And I don't know that the open to work out to the universe is the best, because the C-suite roles are coming through your recruiting firms and your relationships. So I personally would not put open to work if I was, C-suite or an executive leader. I would just leverage those relationships.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, like, can I comment on this? On what I learned. So there, like, in LinkedIn Open to Work, there's an option to do an Open to Work to everyone. And then there's an option to do Open to Work on recruiters. And I was advised to just do an Open to Work on to recruiters. And I'm more on a junior level than you, but I wanted to share that. And I think the reason I was given was, if we do a open to work to everyone and then we try to network to potential people, they become very hesitant because they feel like, oh, I need, there'll be a lot that will be asked, and so people don't respond. I think that's what someone gave me suggestion, but I just wanted to share with everyone on this perspective as well.
Thank you. We've got 3 hands up. I think Ganesh, were you yours has been up the longest, I think.
Yeah.
I
Hello,
like your
everyone.
boardroom. Look at that.
Yeah, thank you so much for excellent presentation. I want to share my experience. I was in a job transition. I also attended PRG bootcamp, which was very helpful. But I found my role through LinkedIn. In fact, the search firm found me on LinkedIn. And what did I do different, right? I put the open to work visible only to recruiters. So I'm in a technology executive role, like a senior level role. So in fact, I ended up having 2 offers. Both the offers came through LinkedIn. So the search firm. So I've been very active on LinkedIn, sharing thoughtful articles, commenting. You rightly mentioned some insightful comments and sharing articles, collaborating, and so that really helped me. And LinkedIn algorithm changes a lot, so you have to be really come on the search result on page 1. Because when someone is looking for a particular role in an industry or a location, you want to be seen in the page 1. So recruiters, that's where they are going to pay more attention to the search results. So you need to really have a search engine optimized, look for the keywords, then your banner, your headline, your about section, everything is very important. So I highly recommend to pay attention to LinkedIn. Of course, networking is great, but we want also to be found by the people, by the hiring team, by the search firms.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to, and I didn't mention it in my presentation, but I always tell salespeople, when you're on a sales call, you're going in with the intention of helping the company make money, save money, or solve a problem. So focus your LinkedIn in those 3 areas, because that's what you do. That's your secret sauce, right? Those are the problems that you solve, or how you're going to be able to help a company. So it's really important for your LinkedIn and your resume to focus on your experience and how that translates on being able to help companies make money, save money, and solve a problem.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing. People have been in a job market for long, so it's okay to change your status, not open. When you reopen it, LinkedIn will rank higher. It will say the person is recently open to work. it's been open to work, the setting for a long time, you are automatically pushed down in the search result. So maybe try it for a week or two, then you reopen it, setting, LinkedIn will automatically rank you higher in the search.
These are great tips. Yeah. Thank you.
Ed, your hand has been up. Ed?
You're on mute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as you called me, the Zoom went into hiding on me.
Of course.
So the ageism question. You know, 40 plus years of experience, but nobody wants 40 plus years of experience. Yeah. So how best to manage that? You know, I mean, a lot of the job descriptions, I'm director level typically, right? So, you know, they want 3 to 8 years experience kind of a thing, which is kind of funky. So just thoughts on how to approach the whole ageism thing. Yeah, we all reduce the amount of stuff we put on our resume, but other thoughts.
I think that you don't show your all your experience.
Right.
You know, and it was interesting because 8 years ago when I was looking and then decided, you know, the universe brought me this opportunity to do an interim role for a startup. And that's really what got me into consulting. But at the time, I was really struggling with the ageism too. And I wanted to get back into the consumer packaged goods industry because that was a really fun time of my career. But I didn't want it on my LinkedIn because it showed, you know, it showed my age, right? So I would say start with that, take it off, you know, take the very, you know, maybe first 10 years of your career, 15 years of your career off your resume. I don't like it because it translates to so many great things, you know, that you've done, but you summarize that in your executive summary at the top.
Right.
So there's ways around that. You know, I'm not, it is real and it is a concern for, you know, all of us that have been in corporate America for a really long time. I would also say that there's a ton of opportunity out there, and there are a lot of companies, especially startups, who don't want to, you know, that 1 to 3 years or 5 years. I think that also speaks to potentially what they're willing to pay you. And so
Yes.
you don't want to work for those companies, right? You're not desperate. And
But this is part of the thing that cracks me up here is I'm looking at salaries for individual contributors with 3 to 5 years experience that are more than I've ever made.
oh,
which is bizarre.
interesting. What industry are you in?
High tech. I do program management,
Okay.
smart grid, EV charging, things like that.
Okay. And what's your ideal company profile? What's the revenue?
So I really like kind of startup spaces. Yeah, anything from kind of second generation product. First generation, they don't really want the program management for typically. Second generation, we need to improve how we do things. So typically second generation, third generation, you know, 300 to 600 people, you know, something like that is kind of ideal for me. You know, I go in and I help them transform.
Okay. Maybe pivot your strategy on the types of companies that you're looking for. And instead of the startup world that might be looking to attract the newer, you know, younger generations, maybe a more established company.
Yeah, I've looked there as well. And, you know, even with referrals, it's just not working here.
Okay.
Okay. Appreciate the insights though.
Mark, your hand is up.
Thank you. So I have to jump to another call here in just a minute, but I'm very curious, Susie, thank you so much for all the insights on, you know, your fractional and consulting business and the decision to go that route. And that's maybe a whole other call. And how do you manage your pipeline and split your time between doing the work and creating sales? So it's a long, you know, answer probably, but maybe we can connect offline.
Yeah, I'd love to. But it's the 80-20 rule. I do 80% client focus work, but I make sure, just like I get up every day and I make sure I work out, I make sure 20% of my time every week is dedicated to biz dev. So it's that 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Awesome.
that's key because that is your pipeline. But yeah, sure. Let's have a one-on-one and we can talk through that.
Thank you so much.
Well, we've come to the end of our time. Susie, it's been wonderful to see you again.
You too.
I can see by the chat that everyone has appreciated all that you have had to offer us. We so appreciate all of you being here with us. And Susie, we would love to have you come back.
Oh, thank you. Would love to come back.
Good. Thank you all. We wish you a wonderful weekend. We look forward to seeing you again at our next coffee, and just carry on and have a great time. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to have a one-on-one. I'd love to talk to you and meet you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. And
Take
we will
care.
send out everything to everyone. So you will have Susie's contact information if you didn't get it during the session this morning.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody. Happy holidays.
Alrighty, take
Yeah,
care.
happy
Thank you,
holidays.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thanks all.